All right, today I am putting together a video for our 2017 Honda CR-V on oil dilution and the oil sample results that I have received on that oil sample that I most recently took. Now, in my previous videos, I had mentioned that I was not going to be doing any more oil samples. However, I did have a few people reach out to me and ask about doing an oil sample because I had replaced the fuel injectors at about the, I can't remember, 82 or 87,000 mile mark. And I made a video about that. I'll show that up here. I was interested in actually doing oil sample results after the injector replacement, and I chose to actually coordinate that sample over the month or the months that are typically the worst for this engine. And that is from October until February, March, where a bulk of the cold weather occurs, a majority of the oil rise occurs historically. Today, I am going to go over these oil sample results, and what we have going on here is this. I'm going to just read the comments quick. Dan, thanks for noting the new injectors. Unfortunately, we're still finding excess fuel in your CR-V's used oil. 2.5% is one of the lower levels in the last few years, though, so that's good. However, silicon is higher than before, and aluminum and iron have also increased a bit. These metals don't look excessive compared to average, but they do show more wear at pistons, bearings, aluminum, and steel parts, iron. Silicon may be airborne dirt that added to wear, so check for leaks in the air intake. Check back on silicone and fuel next service. And we're going to run down here. And so what they're saying is that the aluminum has slightly increased. The iron has slightly increased. So these are the current numbers they are discussing. And if you go down here in the history, aluminum has always been typically 4 to 5. And now I'm slightly above the universal averages of 7. Iron has typically been 16 to low 20s. There was one where I had really high dilution and it popped up to 37. So 22, take away what you want on that. But the silicon, what they are showing here, 5, 11, 12, 7, 12 has historically been the numbers that I've shown on this engine, and it jumped up to 20. I did replace the air filter in October. It's the same. I use a Wix air filter. I use Wix air filters on all the vehicles, and I didn't deviate from that. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. If I, had a little bit dirty, maybe a little crud or dirt got into the sample from the drain. Going down though to the fuel percentage. So here is what we're at, 2.5% fuel dilution or fuel in the oil. And as you can see here, historically, I've been much higher. This number right here, this 1.3, if you go back to some of my other videos, this really was signified when I was using premium fuel. So that, there's videos that you can see where I go back and explain that. I'm not going to hash that out today. For video purposes, I did use premium fuel and did oil samples. However, when I'm not planning on doing videos or talking about using premium versus non-premium, I generally use 87 octane. The reason why I don't like to use the premium fuel in the CR-V and why I made the videos is because the CR-V was ultimately marketed as needing, or the fuel recommended was 87 octane or higher. Standpoint, you kind of go, maybe do we have to deal with the oil rise with the, using 87? Should we? Is this right? It's up to you. I'm just making a video pointing it out. The other interesting comment that I receive a lot with people regarding these oil sample videos was that I'm not using the correct oil weight. And yes, you are correct. Honda specifies 0W20 oil for the CRV, for the 1.5 liter turbo engine. On this oil sample result, I did use Kirkland 5W30 oil. And the reason why I use 5W30 oil is that historically, the oil dilutes very quickly. I can drive the vehicle maybe 200-300 miles and the oil has risen up to the upper end of the plastic, the orange plastic, which is roughly about a 1/2 inch rise. And when that occurs, the oil viscosity ends up reducing. And so if you're dealing with the 0W20 oil, you're already dealing with a less viscosity compared to a 5W30. Now, will it damage the engine? I'm not saying that. What I'm just saying is that when I run my engine, and you can see it right here, they give a viscosity rating of 9.1 to 11.3. Okay, this is what the average of a 5W30 oil, Kirkland oil, should be in. This is what they expect a normal range. And as you can see, mine dropped out of the normal range. I'm at 7.7. Now, this oil, I can tell you, if I go back and I pull up some previous tests, which I'm actually going to do, the viscosity range on a 0W20, this oil sample right here is about that. So hold on a minute. As you can see here with my hand shaking, this oil service here showed a fuel dilution of 1.5%. It was Mobil 1 0W20. And right here, the viscosity rating was 5.65. I'm going to try to, oh man, come on. There we go, 5.65. And it gives the value of 6.0 to 9.4, which is the range. So even with a fuel dilution of 1.5, it's dropped out of what the viscosity range should be for a 0W20 oil. So at 9.4 here, we're going over to my results, and what I have is this. We are at 7.7. So I'm right in the middle of a good 0W20 viscosity range. So the reason why I end up using 5W30 on this vehicle is because the viscosity will drop out of range with the oil dilution, and it will usually drop it down to, a viscosity range of 0W20. Now, I'm not recommending anyone else go and make their change based on this. This is what I do. This is why I do it. Okay, the reason why I went ahead and replaced the fuel injectors is because I had a standalone code of a P0172, which ends up setting when the fuel trims drop below 20. They will show a -20, where essentially the computer is believing that the vehicle is overfueled and it's pulling back the fuel that the injectors are delivering to the engine. After X amount of minutes or runtime, if that -20 on the short-term and the long-term fuel trims does not improve, it will throw this P0172. Now, for anybody that has not experienced the P0172 code on this engine, it is actually sort of debilitating in the sense that it turns on every sort of dummy light on the dash. So a check engine light, it will pop up with brakes, ABS light, the driving nanny lights, and of course all the driving nannies do not work. And it's a little confusing when all these lights start popping up. It's not real apparent that you are having a check engine light problem. It seems like it's a bigger deal because at that point, when you start seeing the ABS light and the brake light and the check engine light and these other driving nannies go out, the first thing I think of is electrical fault or some type of problem where it is manifesting into multiple systems across the engine management system. So the vehicle is still drivable, it still works. However, there's no cruise control, whatever the case may be. So we have, after the replacement of the fuel injectors, the fuel trims came up to what I would consider normal, which is somewhere around 0 to, you know, -1 or 3 or 4. Nothing more than that. And I knew right there the problem was fixed. You know, the codes got cleared and the vehicle, you know, drove fine on the test drive. And subsequently, that was at, I believe, 82,000 or 87,000 miles. And we're now at 103,000 miles, and there has not been a return of the check engine light. That's it for today. As far as my 2017 Honda CR-V and the oil level rise, thank you for watching. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing. Besides the documenting of the Honda CR-V, we got a wide variety of content that I put together and threw on here. It's sort of a hodgepodge of stuff. So please consider subscribing to the channel, and we appreciate watching. Thanks.